just after the All-Star break. I wanted to do this video during the All-Star break, but I had some other stuff that it seemed more appropriate to do first, video-wise. So I'm going to go over some standings and then talk about just a couple pieces of news, information, stories from this season so far that stand out to me that I think are particularly interesting. Full disclosure, I've not watched a ton of the NHL season this year. Between all the games I was watching for the NFL weekly review videos, and then just a bunch of stuff I've going on in my personal life, I honestly have probably only watched fewer than a dozen total hockey games this year, to be honest with you. Once the Super Bowl's over, I'm hopefully going to be able to start watching a lot more as we get into the latter half of the season. I know right now Vegas is super injured. We just had a pretty nice win against the Oilers the other night to end their 16-game almost historic winning streak they were on. I think the record is 17, but they set the franchise record at the very least. We did that with, half an AHL roster, but yeah, Vegas super injured right now. But anyways, I did this here. I have these little standing sheets, so we're just gonna go over the standings really quick, bottom to top. And then, there's some stories and things like that I want to get around talking as well. Talking about. So, let's start with the Pacific Division. My favorite division, or the division my favorite team is in. The bottom of the division, no real surprise to anybody, we have the San Jose Sharks. They have played 51 games. They have only won 14 of those, lost 32. 5 overtime losses for a grand total of 33 points, a negative 92 goal differential, which I think is the worst in the league. Yes, it is the worst in the league by a very wide margin, negative 92. In 7th place, we have the Anaheim Ducks, who are going through a little bit of a reinvention, a little bit of a rebuild at the moment. There's some guys that I didn't think they were going to move on from, that they did end up moving on from, that ended up not being a part of their team future. Trevor Zegras, they did trade him, right? Didn't they? Oh no, they didn't. I thought they did end up trading him. Did they almost trade him? They must have almost traded him. I could have sworn. Because I know he's injured right now. Maybe the injury is what kept him out. Right, they traded Jamie Drysdale. Transactions. Hold on. Hold on. Let me go back to Cap Friendly here. The CBS one sucks. Yeah, okay, they traded Jamie Drysdale to Philadelphia. That was the one that I was kind of taken aback by. I was like, oh, I thought he was going to be part of this team long term. I think there might have been rumors or something about Zegras. Anyway, moving on. 6th place, a team that I thought would be a little bit better than this season. Actually, the Ducks had 18 wins, 30 losses, 2 overtime losses, 38 points, negative 41 in 50 games. This next team in 6th place with the Calgary Flames. That Huberdeau contract, right? That's the one that's looking bad at the moment. What is his? Let me pull up his stats. What are his stats so far this season? He's been really bad, especially after getting that contract from them. 49 games played, 7 goals, 22 assists, negative 14. He only has 29 points. And there's times where he just looks completely checked out. And it's been like a huge story this whole season, really. Although he did just have that win in Boston. They ended up trading Lindholm as well, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, definitely a big struggle there with him anyways. 5th, we have the Seattle Kraken. Seattle's 50 games played, 21 wins, 19 losses, 10 overtime losses, 52 points, minus 7 goal differential. The Flames, 23 wins, 22 losses, 5 overtime losses, 51 points, minus 3 goal differential. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They might jump the Kraken. It actually wouldn't really surprise me that much if they did, to be honest with you. Now a team who just fired their coach, they've been hot and cold this season. It's been very interesting. There's some parts this season where they looked really good, and then some parts where they've struggled a bit. They just fired their coach, and that is the Los Angeles Kings. Kings have played only 48 games. They still have a little bit of runway ahead of them. 23 wins, 15 losses, 10 overtime losses, 56 points, a positive 20 goal differential. And then 3rd place, you have the Edmonton Oilers. And if you would have told me this like 2 months ago when I made my last NHL video, I wouldn't believe you, because at that point the Oilers were they were on a terrible losing streak. McDavid was hurt for a bit. They had a new defensive structure that seemingly wasn't working, but they've completely turned that around this year. They had a 16-game winning streak. The longest, I think, in NHL history is 17. Vegas was finally the team that stopped that winning streak, as I said earlier. I think his early season woes, they were towards the bottom of the Pacific. They were down there with the Sharks and the Ducks. I think they were worse than the Flames. They were in a really bad spot. They were in danger of missing the playoffs, and especially after last season where they had such a dominant season led by their power play. It was just shocking to see, kind of unthinkable. And, their new defensive system, like I alluded to, and Skinner looked bad. But now all of that's turned around. Their even strength scoring came back, which is something I kind of criticized them for when I went out in the playoffs last year. Was not having enough even strength scoring, but they're starting to get their 5-on-5 scoring now. They seem more comfortable in their defensive structure. And the Edmonton Oilers are top 10 in shots per 60, scoring chances per 60, and high-danger chances per 60. They have one of the best offenses in the league. Obviously the Canucks is still a better offense than them. There might be a team or two that I'm thinking of that I just can't think of, like maybe Colorado, but they're definitely up there, like I said, top 10 in all of those categories. And the big thing is that Skinner has turned his season around. It looked like his sophomore slump was going to be brutal. During that big losing streak in the season, he had a .876 save percentage, but now, over the last, 20-ish games, they've turned their season around. He got that all the way up to a .923 save percentage, just over 2 goals against per game, so they've had a complete turnaround that I honestly didn't expect. I thought they were cooked, I'm not gonna lie to you. They've played 46 games, so they have the least amount of games played in the Pacific, maybe even in the entire league. Yeah, they have the least amount of games played in the entire league. They have 5 games in hand over the team in front of them in the standings. 4 games in hand over the top spot in the standings, so they're in a really good spot. 29 wins, 16 losses, 1 overtime loss, 59 points, positive 34 goal differential. The team ahead of them is the team that stopped them. That is the Vegas Golden Knights. Like I said, we've been struggling with injuries this season. There's been a couple down points in the season, a couple bad losses. I've had a lot of concern about Logan Thompson this season. You know, he hasn't looked as good this year as he did last year. But it's been nice that Aiden Hill and his heroics, which, you know, played no small part in us winning the Stanley Cup last year. That was not just a fluke. I know there was a lot of concern about giving Aiden Hill that contract, given his career history. You know, it's like, oh, we just paying a guy because of one season's worth of production, but he's been one of the best goaltenders in the league this season statistically. Even during the down points in the Vegas season when the team has been struggling, Aiden Hill has not been the problem, but unfortunately Logan Thompson has kind of been an issue. And for a kid that's kind of being groomed to be like the franchise goalie going forward, you know, thinking maybe having him in there for the next 4, 5, 6 years. He's not off to a great start at the moment. Right now, Vegas has played 51 games, which is the most of any team in the Pacific. They've won 30 games, lost 15, 6 overtime losses. They have 66 points and a positive 27 goal differential. Now, the one that really surprised me, I think I predicted this team at 4th or 5th, maybe even 6th, but the Vancouver Canucks, they have continued, you know, unlike the Oilers, who their early season lack of success was not a fluke, the Canucks' early season success was not a fluke. I didn't really think it was going to be a fluke, because the manner in which they were getting their wins and their points, it wasn't flukish. Like, they weren't getting lucky bounces and things like that sometimes that teams get when they go on these runs. But they're just a very well-coached team. They're a very well-built roster. And that feels weird to say about the Vancouver Canucks of all teams. And, you know, I've already kind of, you know, said my piece about why I rated them so poorly in the offseason. I didn't think their offseason moves were that big. I thought to me, they seemed more like lateral moves than anything else this offseason. And I just didn't, you know, I didn't see where the big differences were going to come from last season to this season. I was like, well, I don't really see why they'll be significantly better than they were last year, especially because they lost Bo Horvat. So I was like, you get rid of Bo Horvat, you don't really bring in any big names in the offseason, just kind of depth pieces. I was like, are they really going to be, you know, I didn't buy into it, but, you know, they've proven that they did in fact do enough, and they're easily the best team in the Pacific right now, the best offense in the NHL, probably. It's like them in Colorado, towards the top there, and the Oilers as well, but I think they're clearly better than the Oilers. And some stats here about the Canucks. J.T. Miller has 68 points in 50 games, 22 goals, 46 assists. Elias Pettersson, 65 points in 50 games, 27 goals, 38 assists. And Quinn Hughes, 64 points in 50 games, 12 goals, 52 assists. He's the odds-on favorite for the Norris. I think the only person really challenging him is Makar. Makar only has 4 fewer points than Hughes at this point, so for as electric, as good, as historic of a performance Hughes has been putting in. Cale Makar's been right there with him, just a few points behind, but Quinn Hughes' his plus minus is way better. I think a lot of his advanced stats are better, so he definitely does have the nod right now. For sure, I think he is going to be the one that wins it. But only 52 games into the season, and Quinn Hughes already has more points than any defenseman in Vancouver Canucks history, which is crazy. Historical season from him. Okay, let's move now to the Central Division, bottom of the Central. And we have the Blackhawks, and the only reason they were really watchable, Connor Bedard, he's now injured. We knew they were going to not be that great. They had the weird thing earlier this season with Corey Perry. I think it kind of came out that it was maybe like an alcohol-related issue. I know there was a follow-up to that. I just didn't really look into it, to be honest with you. But yeah, the Blackhawks down there at 8, not a big shocker. And unfortunately, with Bedard going down, I don't know how long he's supposed to be out, but it's kind of like, not much of a reason to watch right now. And then just ahead of them, now I did expect them to, take a step back this season, kinda, but for them to be here at 7 is shocking. The Wild, there was a point in this season where they had an 8-game losing streak. They were booed off home ice a couple times, at least once that I remember. And it's really unfortunate, they have Fleury in net, and, you have to think this is, he's coming into the twilight of his career. This might be his last season. He might have one more, I don't know, but for him to be on a team that's not even sniffing the playoffs right now, and the Wild is so interesting to me, and it shows how fickle this league can be, right? Because they kind of remind me a little bit of the Montreal Canadiens, a little bit different, but similar if you'll stick with me. Like the Canadiens a few years back in the bubble season, they upset the Vegas Golden Knights. They go to the Stanley Cup final. They end up losing in that Stanley Cup final, but they were there and they were a young, exciting team. And since then, the Montreal Canadiens have done nothing. They've been at the bottom of their division. They're not at the bottom this season. They are, but they're not in the playoffs, for sure. So it shows that you can be right there. You can be on the edge of glory. You can be just a couple steps away. But if you don't go all the way, there's no guarantee you get a second shot at it. And the Wild did not get as close as the Canadiens did, but the Wild, it felt like they were a team that was destined to, I thought they would at least make a Western Conference final. I thought they would. I don't know, I just didn't expect them to kind of crater the way they did. And I know Kaprizov has been dealing with some injury issues, but a lot of it, in my opinion, comes down to like roster construction issues and some bad contracts, some dead money. And it just seems like the Wild have shot themselves in the foot and taken themselves out of contention. And I don't know what's going to happen with them long term. They're in a really weird spot. The only teams worse than them are Anaheim, the Sharks, and the Blackhawks, like in the entire league. Those the only two, or in the West at least, the only teams worse than them, so it's upsetting for sure. Not that I like the Wild necessarily, like I don't dislike them, but it's just like, come on, like just seeing a team that almost gets there, but then can't quite get out of their own way is just, frustrating. Going back to the Blackhawks, in 51 games, they have 14 wins, 35 losses, 2 overtime losses, 30 points, negative 73 goal differential. Them and the Sharks will be in a competition with one another to see who can have the worst goal differential. And the Wild have 50 games played, 22 wins, 23 losses, 5 overtime losses, 49 points, negative 16 goal differential. And just ahead of them is the Arizona Coyotes in 6th place. And earlier in the season, they were a bit higher. They were playing pretty good there for a little while, but then they've cooled down a bit. They've now come down to 6th. And recently there's been some drama around this team just today, which kind of spurred me on making this video. There's, of course, some more location drama going on. There's basically, I think it was either put out yesterday or early today that said there are 3 options available to the Coyotes, pretty much. Or 4 options. It's find an arena location and find it now, because the NHL's tired of waiting. Sell the team to the owner of the Suns. I think his name's Matt Ishiba or something like that, I think. Sell the team, let the NHL take ownership of the team, so vacate ownership to the league, or relocate the franchise. Those are their options. But then it came out a little bit after that, just a couple hours before I started recording this, that the owner of the Suns is not interested in purchasing the Arizona Coyotes. And then there's a tweet from Friedman that said, this ownership group is coming to an end. They have nothing in place for the future. The NHL might take over the team. And then Friedman put out another tweet saying that the league will be making an announcement with regards to the Arizona Coyotes shortly after the Super Bowl. So Super Bowl's just a couple of days away at this point, and right after that we're going to find out some big information about the Arizona Coyotes. In the meantime, there's this investment group in Utah that's been doing a ton of work. I think they have an arena plan already put together. I think they have an arena location already put together, and there's multiple investors. It seems like there's some real serious money involved. They're trying to get an NHL franchise put into Salt Lake City, and right around the same time that the announcement was made that the owner of the Phoenix Suns is not willing to purchase the Arizona Coyotes, Kevin Weeks put out a tweet that was just a photo of Salt Lake City. And it seemed like it was a picture he took himself, so I don't know if maybe the NHL is sending representatives to Salt Lake City to make an announcement that the team is relocating there. I don't know. I think Salt Lake City is a good location for an NHL team. They have a very successful WHL team. I think they're the Silver Tips. I think that's what they're called. It's been a while since I've watched a WHL game. But yeah, I mean, it sucks because, you hate to see a fan base lose a team. Hopefully, you just keep expanding and you don't have to move a team, but that's just not the realistic way the world works. And the city of Phoenix, for whatever reason, just seems either to not want to deal with either the team or the ownership group, and they haven't been able to secure a location. They didn't even invest money into their own political campaign to get approval for the arena spots. I guess we're going to see what happens, but right now my money is probably on the Arizona Coyotes relocating to Salt Lake City. But what's interesting about that is I have a feeling that Bill Foley will try to put an injunction on that, because the Vegas Golden Knights have been making concerted efforts to try to make Salt Lake City and Utah in general Vegas Golden Knights territory. They've played preseason games up in Salt Lake City. I think they had a classic or something against the Kings in the preseason up in Salt Lake City, and they've had rookie showcases in Salt Lake City. Bill Foley has invested millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to make Utah Vegas Golden Knights territory, so I have a feeling he might file an injunction against the NHL if they try to move the team there. I don't know. Obviously, it's all speculation at this point anyway. Moving on, in 5th place We have the Nashville Predators, named after the Team Canada World Hockey Junior team. They have 26 wins, 23 losses, 2 overtime losses for 54 points, negative 7 goal differential, and tied on points, but with 2 fewer games played. In 4th place, we have the St. Louis Blues. The Blues have 26 wins, 21 losses, 2 overtime losses, 54 points, negative 12 goal differential. Now for our first team with a positive goal differential, and this team was on a streak. This team kind of reminded me of the Oilers a little bit at one point, because they were this like big, like they weren't allowing people to score. Like they were just winning. It was all on the goalie and defense, which, no real surprise if you look at their goalie situation. But this team was just winning. They were super hot, and that's the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg Jets all the way up to 3rd, which I don't know. I have mixed feelings on the Jets. Sometimes I think they're like really good. I'm like, man, this might be one of the best teams in Canada. Like, there was a couple years ago, I thought the Jets were the most likely team to be the next team to win a cup in Canada. But now, even with their surge here, I'm kind of like, are they? I don't know. My opinion on them has dropped a little bit. But they put a lot of daylight between them and the Blues. And the crazy thing is they've only played 48 games, so they have 3 games in hand over the two teams ahead of them. And they only have 3 fewer points, so they definitely have room there. It is their spot to lose, but unfortunately they have lost their last 4 games. But all the teams in the Central, man, like the Coyotes are on a 3-game losing streak, the Predators are on a 3-game losing streak, the Jets are on a 4-game losing streak, the Avalanche are on a 2-game losing streak. The teams in the Central are just not winning games. Are they the weakest division in hockey this year? Usually it's the Pacific, but with the Canucks being so good, the Oilers, Vegas being so good, Kings are pretty decent. I think the Central might be the weakest division in hockey this season, and usually it's a meat grinder division. So, anyways, in 2nd place, we have the Dallas Stars, which I kind of feel like Dallas has been kind of under the radar a little bit. Maybe it's because I don't really pay attention to the Central, I don't know, but I feel like I haven't heard a ton about Dallas. I don't know if it's just because they're not really playing a flashy style of game or something. I don't know why, but I feel like for a team that's in 2nd in the Central, I don't really hear that much about them. 51 games played, 31 wins, 14 losses, 6 overtime losses for 68 points, which means the team at the top of the Central is the Colorado Avalanche. 51 games played, 32 wins, 15 losses, 4 overtime losses for 68 points. Now, let's move to the Atlantic, shall we? The bottom, actually, real quick, going back to the West, what's crazy is, and just to show how good not only the Pacific, but specifically the Canucks have been during that 16-game winning streak that the Oilers went on, they only gained 4 points on the Canucks over that time. They only gained 4 points on the Vancouver Canucks. Like, so that just shows how good the Canucks have been. When you have a team setting a historic winning record, the Canucks are keeping pace with them. It's like trying to win a race against Usain Bolt. You're just like, doesn't matter how fast you run, he's still gonna beat you. Atlantic, I'm gonna be honest, I thought this team would be better. I think this team had expectations to be better here. scenes, but I really can't recall at this point, and that is the Ottawa Senators. 47 games played, 20 wins, 25 losses, 2 overtime losses are 42 points, minus 12 goal differential. And just ahead of them, this is honestly just, this is so disappointing for me to see. I had this team pegged at like the 3-4 spot. I was hoping this team would either make the playoffs or the wild card this year. I really thought this year was the year for the Buffalo Sabres to finally get into the playoffs, and finally, like, the squad was there. You know what, I'm gonna quickly pause this video because I haven't been really paying attention to the Sabres. I'm gonna go see what's been going wrong with their season. So I'm looking at it a bit for the Sabres because, like I said, I really thought, with Alex Tuck, I was hoping that Krebs could take the next step. Because he has top line potential, at least top 6 potential. Man, I did not. Their team leader in points is Casey Middlestat with 42. Tage Thompson has missed 10 games, but he only has 29 points, and he's a negative 11 in plus minus. He has the worst plus minus on the entire team. Rasmus Dahlin's a minus 12, so just barely better. Tuck only has 34 points and 43, but the one, Okposo has 16 points in 47 games, but for some reason they still have him playing on the top line. I don't know why. And then Peyton Krebs has played 48 games, but he only has 9 points. I really thought that he would start taking that jump by this point. And I found this article. It said the Sabres have shown more signs of regression than growth. The power play unit, which was once their strength, ranks 27th in the NHL and is converting just 12 of its 90 chances. So far this season, Buffalo's playmaking defensemen are more likely to turn over the puck than join the rush. So it just seems like everything's going wrong, and at that point I don't even know what you do, because I feel like on paper their roster should be decent. And then their goalie, who was really good last year, he was so bad starting this year they just sent him to the minors. Like what do you even do at this point? Like, nothing they're doing is working. They're on a worse base this season than they were Jack Eichel's rookie season. I really thought this was the year that they would at least make the playoffs. I don't know if they can't do it this year. I don't think they are going to. In 6th place with the Canadiens. 50 games played, 21 wins, 21 losses, 8 overtime losses, 50 points, negative 36 goal differential. They have let in 26 more goals. They have a goal differential that is 26 goals worse than the Sabres, but they are ahead of them in the standings. And then a team that has turned things around nicely. They've done their rebuild. They're now coming out of their rebuild, and they're looking to keep steadily improving. I think I'm almost certain this team should be a playoff team next year. If not, if they somehow sneak in this year, I'm not sure if they will, but I think they could. In 5th place, we have the Detroit Red Wings. 50 games played, 26 wins, 18 losses, 6 overtime losses for 58 points, goal differential positive 15. Then to them, a team that just had a major loss. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning. Sergachev was out with a pretty bad injury. He finally came back today after months and months of recovery. And his first game back from injury, he gets a season-ending leg injury on a reverse hit. wasn't a dirty play, but just a freak accident and just the worst timing. Especially because the Lightning were looking like maybe him back, they can push up against the Panthers maybe a little bit, start pushing for that second spot. Or that, at least that third spot, because they have, the team absolutely headed them by 1 point, although they have, that team has two games in hand over them, but they've gotten to this far without Sergachev, so they can, keep winning without him, but he would have really been a big help for them, and that's a big blow. Just ahead of them, a team that I thought would be first or second in the division, but we find them at 3. We have the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've only played 49 games though, which is 1 fewer than the team ahead of them, 2 fewer than the team right behind them. The Maple Leafs have 26 wins, 15 losses, 8 overtime losses, 60 points. Goal differential positive 16. And ahead of them, I thought this team would be third. They were just going off the Stanley Cup final, but I thought with the injury issues going out of the final, plus I just thought their style of play, lended itself more towards the playoffs than the regular season. I expect them to be third, maybe fourth. We have the Florida Panthers, but the Panthers have been absolutely rolling. 31 wins, 15 losses, 4 overtime losses for 66 points. Positive 30 goal differential, and a team that I really did not expect to be here in first place. But what's crazy about the Boston Bruins who are here at the top, it seems to not matter who is or is not on the team. They're just always going to be one of the top 3 teams in the Atlantic. Like Bergeron retired, right? And I was like, okay, Bergeron's retiring. There's a lot of old guys on this roster. They've been in the playoffs pretty much every season. They've had some heartbreaking endings to these playoffs. At some point, they have to fall off the wagon a little bit, right? And they just haven't. They just keep being a top team in the Atlantic Division, even when their best players are retiring or old or whatever. It's kind of impressive because at that point it's like a team culture thing or whatever. They lose Bruce Cassidy, who gave them their record-breaking season, still make the playoffs now after losing their captain, one of the best two-way centers, if not the best two-way center of all time. Doesn't matter, still top of the division. It's just the Bruins just go. And finally, the Metropolitan completely, complete transparency. This is the division I paid the least amount of attention to. I really have no reason to watch any of the teams in this division. Apologies. We have the Columbus Blue Jackets. There's been a little bit of drama with them and their ownership group. There was a kind of a player bull thing or some anonymous thing saying basically nobody wants to play for them. And they said it's not the city of Columbus. They're saying basically it's just players do not want to deal with their ownership and management group. So players don't want to get traded there. Even if a player only has a 10-team no trade list, Columbus is on it. Players don't want to get drafted there. Players don't want to sign there. So Columbus needs to completely clean house if they want to remain relevant, which will remain relevant if they want to become relevant. They've played 50 games. They've only won 16, 24 losses, 10 overtime losses, or 42 points, negative 36 goal differential. Just ahead of them, finally, after years of just remaining afloat, the Capitals have finally come down to earth. And the big story, at least it was at the start of the season, I haven't kept up on it. I'll actually look at their stats now, but there was a period where Alex Ovechkin was he had set the longest streak of his career for not scoring a goal. I see that he's now scored 10 goals this season in 45 games, but that has to be the worst pace of his career. And with how bad the team because like it's obvious they're just feeding him goals, or feeding him the puck, trying to give him the goal record. But I think at this point he has to be averaging like 30 goals a season for the next few years if he wants to get Gretzky's record. Right now he's only at 10 in 45 games, so he's slightly off the pace. I don't know exactly, but like I think he had the longest streak of his entire career of not getting a goal this season, and at points, like his body language has just been bad. Like he's not hitting like he used to. He looks older and slower, and there's times where it's like kind of seems like he's taking shifts off. Capitals there, 22-19, 751 points. Negative 34 goal differential, and now this is the one that shocks me. Because I and a lot of people coming into this season, this team was, I think, the odds-on, like, Vegas betting favorite to win the Stanley Cup. I had them pegged to go to the Stanley Cup in 6 with the New Jersey Devils. What happened to them? 25 wins, 20 losses, 3 overtime losses, 53 points. Like, people were talking about the New Jersey Devils like they were the Harlem Globetrotters. I'm once again going to pause this video and do a little bit of research real quick. So taking a look here, it looks like goaltending is a really big issue for them. Both their goaltenders have a below 900 save percentage and higher than 3 goals against average. A lot of fans are saying that the departure of Damon Severson has been, more than they expected, so it has hurt. And looking at Timo Meier, this is a guy, I thought he might win the Rocket Richard this season. I thought he was going to be just getting goals. Oh, and they've had a lot of injuries. Wow. Timo Meier only has 9 goals, 10 assists. But a lot of these guys have missed games. The Devils only played 48 games, right? Jack Hughes has only played 32 games, so he missed 16 games. Nico Hischier has only played 37. Timo Meier's only played 35. Andre Palat's only played 38. So they've had a lot. Doug Hamilton's only played 20. They've had a lot of injured guys. Well, that is shocking, though. I really thought that they were going to be one of, if not the best team in the league this season. A lot of people thought they were going to be. That's really, I didn't realize they were. Like I said, I don't really pay attention to the Metro. I kind of assumed they'd be in the 1 or 2 spot here. And then we get to the 5th place Penguins. I don't know if you want to say that, they're not in the worst position. They're only 5 points out of 3rd, and they have 4 games in hand over the team that's in 3rd, so I could see them getting to 3rd. With the Penguins, they've kind of gone all in on older veteran players, and, like I said, in my opinion, this was a boomer bust team. Right now, they're sitting in 5th. I could see them finishing 3rd, but they're a team in a very interesting kind of limbo spot right now. They're 23, 17, and 7, 53 points, 15 goal differential. And then the team ahead of them in the standings, but only by a single point, and they've played 3 more games. In 4th place, we have the Islanders. I think the Penguins are definitely jumping the Islanders here. The Islanders in 4th place, 50 games played, 21 wins, 17 losses, 12 overtime losses, 54 points, negative 22 goal differential. That's really bad. They should be, they have a worse goal differential than the Devils by 17. It's so crazy that that can just happen from time to time. Canucks, I didn't expect them to be here. I expected this team to probably be down where the Devils are at. The Flyers, the Philadelphia Flyers. Their third place team. 51 games played, 26 wins, 19 losses, 6 overtime losses, 58 points, and a 0 goal differential, 149 goals for, 149 goals is against. Second place with the Carolina Hurricanes, another team I feel like kind of goes under the radar quite a bit. Did not mean to save that. 28 wins, 16 losses, 5 overtime losses for 61 points, positive 18 goal differential, and finally, top of the Metropolitan, we have the Rangers, who I did not expect to see here, I'm going to be honest with you. But the Rangers, 32 wins, 16 losses, 3 overtime losses for 67 points and a positive 22 goal differential. So these are the current NHL standings. Like I said, today is the 8th of February. So if you're watching this too much in the future, these probably look different. Before we go, there's 2 news stories I want to touch on. I'll start with the good news, or I'll start with the bad news, how about that? And I just want to very briefly touch on the Team Canada stuff, and everything that happened there. Just a terrible situation all around, and an indictment of the hockey culture issues that a lot of people have been talking about for years, but have unfortunately never really been taken seriously up to this point. So I'm hopeful that, leading into this investigation, and hopefully at the conclusion of this investigation, hockey, both on a business level, the managerial level, front office level, the people in charge, as well as the cultural level, the way that teenagers that are hockey players, adults that are hockey players are treated, and the permissions they're granted that other people aren't granted. I hope that all of that is examined and dealt with appropriately, and we can hopefully make the culture around the game and the business around the game and all of that better, and that the authority figures that failed, both the victims and the people, every step of the way, are dealt with and replaced by people who take things more seriously and are more committed to doing the right thing instead of just doing what makes them the most money or earns them the most on-ice success. That's that piece. But then for the good news, we are getting NHL players in the Olympics in 2026 and 2030, and it's kind of bittersweet. Because it's going to be cool to see, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, whatever, in the Olympics. We're finally going to see best on best hockey. But Alexander Ovechkin won't be there, Sidney Crosby won't be there, Erik Karlsson won't be there most likely. Like, a lot of these great players have now gotten too old, and they'll probably be retired by the time the Olympics roll around. And it's like these guys who should have had the opportunity to play in the Olympics are not going to be able to, and that's a really bitter pill to swallow. So as excited as I am that the NHL is allowing players to go to the Olympics, and I hope that they continue to allow players to go to the Olympics, and this isn't only a 2-time thing for the 2026 and 2030 Olympics. It is still bittersweet, but anyway, guys, that is the video. Let me know how you think your team season has been going so far, and what the biggest surprises or standout things for you have been so far this NHL season. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this almost every single day. Until next time.